There was a time when Freddie Mercury looked larger than life. The voice, the energy, the confidence. On stage, he looked untouchable, like a man completely in control. But behind the lights, behind the fame, behind the screaming crowds, there was another story, a quieter one, a lonelier one, because while millions loved Freddie Mercury, his personal life was far more complicated than people realized. Relationships that couldn't fully survive fame, emotional distance, identity struggles, and one woman who remained emotionally connected to him until the very end. So how does a man become one of the biggest rock stars in history, while privately struggling to find peace in his own life? Stay with me, because this story isn't just about music. It's about love, identity, loneliness, and the cost of becoming a legend. There was a time when the world believed Freddie Mercury was untouchable. The voice, the confidence, the energy that could control an entire stadium. When Freddie stepped on stage, people didn't just watch him, they felt pulled toward him, like gravity, like chaos and control existing at the same time. And maybe that's why he became unforgettable. Because he didn't perform like someone trying to be famous. He performed like someone trying to escape something. The crowd saw confidence. But confidence and peace are not the same thing. Because behind the stage lights, there was another version of Freddie Mercury the public rarely saw. Quieter, more emotional, more alone. A man surrounded by millions of fans, but still struggling with intimacy, still struggling with identity, still struggling with the feeling that no matter how big the applause became, something inside him remained unresolved. And maybe that's the real tragedy of his story. Not fame, not success, but loneliness hiding inside greatness. Because while the world saw extravagance, there were moments in Freddie's personal life filled with confusion, relationships that became emotionally complicated, love that didn't fully survive fame, a lifestyle that looked exciting publicly, but emotionally unstable privately. And one relationship in particular never truly left him. Mary Austin, not just a former partner, not just someone from his past, but someone who understood him before the fame changed everything. Before Queen became legendary. Before Freddie Mercury became an icon instead of person. And that difference mattered deeply to him. Because fame changes people around you. It changes trust. It changes relationships. It changes how people see you. But the people who knew you before all of it become emotionally unforgettable. And Freddie never fully escaped that connection. Even years later, even after the tours, the parties, the relationships, the chaos, Mary Austin remained emotionally central to his life. Which tells you something important. Sometimes the deepest relationship in someone's life isn't the one that lasts romantically. It's the one that understands them completely. So how does someone become one of the biggest rock stars in history, while privately feeling emotionally disconnected? How does a man loved by millions still end up isolated? Stay with me, because this story isn't just about music. It's about identity, love, fame, and what happens when success becomes too loud to hear yourself clearly anymore. Before the stadiums, before Queen became global, Freddie Mercury met someone who would shape his life forever. Mary Austin. They met in London in the early 1970s. At that time, Freddie wasn't a legend yet. He was ambitious, creative, driven, but still trying to become someone. And Mary saw him before the fame, before the costumes, before the spotlight. That mattered deeply to him. Because fame changes how people treat you. But she knew him before all of it. Their relationship became serious quickly. They lived together, built a life together, and for a while, it looked like a normal future was possible. But as Queen exploded in popularity during the mid-1970s, everything around Freddie accelerated. Fuel, attention, temptation, pressure, and internally, he was dealing with questions he couldn't ignore forever. Questions about identity, about who he really was, about what kind of life he actually wanted. Eventually, he told Mary the truth. Not publicly, privately, emotionally. And that conversation changed everything between them. Their romantic relationship ended. But strangely, their emotional connection never fully disappeared. Even after fame transformed Freddie Mercury into a global icon, Mary Austin remained one of the only people he truly trusted. That says something important, because when someone knows you before the world does, their presence feels real in a way fame never can. Before the concerts, before the legendary performances, before the name Freddie Mercury meant something to the world, there was a young man trying to become someone. Not famous, not iconic, just understood. Back in the early 1970s in London, Freddie Mercury was ambitious, creative, driven, but still searching for identity. That's when he met Mary Austin. She wasn't part of the music industry elite. She wasn't chasing fame. And maybe that's exactly why he felt safe around her. Because when someone sees you before success, they see the version of you that still feels human. Their relationship grew naturally, quietly, at a time when Freddie's life still felt manageable. Before global tours, before pressure, before the world started demanding pieces of him, they lived together, shared routines, built emotional closeness. And for a period of time, Freddie genuinely imagined a future with stability. Something normal, something grounded. But fame changes timelines. By 1973 to 1975, Queen exploded globally. Everything accelerated. Money, attention, travel, temptation, and internally, Freddie was beginning to confront parts of himself he could no longer ignore. Questions about identity, questions about attraction, questions about who he really was beyond the image he presented publicly. And those questions created emotional distance. Not because he stopped caring about Mary, but because he was changing internally faster than the relationship could adapt. Eventually, Freddie told her the truth privately. A painful conversation, honest, emotional, the kind of conversation that changes two lives permanently. Their romantic relationship ended. But something unusual happened after that. Their emotional bond survived. Not perfectly, not traditionally, but deeply. Freddie once reportedly told Mary, "You're my only real friend." That line matters, because despite all the fame, all the parties, all the relationships later in his life, he still emotionally trusted the person who knew him before. The world did. And maybe that's the hidden truth inside Freddie Mercury's story. The bigger he became publicly, the more valuable genuine emotional connection became privately. Because once the whole world wants something from you, real trust becomes rare, and rare things become priceless. By the late 1970s and 1980s, Freddie Mercury wasn't just famous. He was larger than culture itself. Massive concerts, global tours, wild nightlife. The world saw confidence. But confidence and peace are not the same thing. Because behind the parties, there were periods of emotional isolation. Moments where fame stopped feeling exciting and started feeling empty. And that's the hidden side of celebrity most people never see. Freddie had relationships throughout his life. Some passionate, some unstable, some deeply private. But the deeper his fame grew, the harder normal connection became. Because when the world constantly wants something from you, trust becomes difficult, and loneliness grows quietly, even in crowded rooms, even at the top of the world. Then came the hardest chapter. In the late 1980s, rumors about Freddie's health began spreading. But publicly, he stayed mostly silent. Not because he didn't know, but because control mattered to him. Privacy mattered to him. As his health declined, his world became smaller, more private, more isolated. And yet, he kept recording music, kept creating, almost like he knew time was running out. On November 24th, 1991, Freddie Mercury passed away at age 45, one day after publicly confirming his illness. And suddenly, the world realized the man they thought was invincible had been fighting a private battle for years. Here's the truth. Freddie Mercury didn't struggle because he lacked fame. He struggled because fame couldn't solve loneliness. Because success can amplify who you are, but it cannot heal what's unresolved inside you. If you're watching this, understand this clearly. First, Being admired is not the same as being understood. Second, fame can surround you with people and still leave you lonely. Third, the people who knew you before success often matter most. Fourth, a powerful image can hide a painful reality. So ask yourself this: if the whole world loved you, but you still felt emotionally alone, would success even matter? Back-end index pointing down, what do you think?